out if you put that on a test, an answer to a test. So people should leave an open door. As far as we know, the so-and-so is extinct. Well, that would be acceptable because that's just as far as you know, because nobody knows at all. And to say that, well, there's no dinosaurs out there, that just means you've been behind every tree in every forest in the world.
Well, look at this.
There's a lot of philosophy. It's a lot of philosophical reasons.
Joe, just think about this. Africa, the Amazon, Brazil. I mean, there's a lot of places where dinosaur or creatures, have been spotted. And I just because we don't have it walking around in Blanco, Texas, or in Seattle, Washington, or Nebraska, doesn't mean that they don't exist. You're absolutely right. Now, I want to say something to James Krishbaum. Don't dig up your backyard thinking you're going to find a T-Rex skeleton and you're going to become rich. Okay? Just think about that, James. It's not going to happen.
Hold on. Just hold on, James. There was a guy in Colorado was digging in his backyard and hit a T-Rex.
Well, go ahead, James. It's not your property anyway. Dig up your backyard. You could find a T-Rex.
Yeah, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, but you better be in dinosaur dirt. You can tell what dinosaurs in by looking at the dirt. There's another guy. They were up in I think it's South Dakota somewhere, and they've been out looking for T-Rexes and Triceratops and all that. They came in and they started. I guess the guy started putting his tent up, and he drives a stake down and goes over and drives a stake down to the other corner. Well, it's really hard. He beats on it, and the darn thing can't get the thing in the ground, so he digs around and sees what kind of rock it is. It was a T-Rex head.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of things are found in ditches and in road cuts of the world. They find stuff all the time. So, but, if you want to dig up your backyard and it's just filled dirt, you're going to be sorry.
Okay, James. Now you know that.
Oh, yeah, I do know. I know that for sure.
Again, going back to... go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, we were, talking before we went to the last break about, Bigfoot and stuff like that. It's true. The odds are finding a Bigfoot remains is going to be very slim. I don't know if they eat their own or whatever they do with them, but, you are so right. There is still tribes out there in Africa. When their departed even dies, they eat the remains because they feel then that the family member becomes part of them. There's still cannibalism going on. So we don't know about Bigfoot. People have this obsession with their thoughts that Bigfoot give off orbs and they're here to protect mankind and they can communicate telepathically and all that stuff. I never saw that. And I don't buy that. I think they are a flesh and blood creature. They do exist, but you're not going to go to some campground and go take a 5-minute walk on a trail and run into one. I don't think.
Well, most cases not, because they're like a lot of animals. They know there's several ways they can know if there's someone out there they don't want to avoid, something if they want to avoid. There are vibrations we put off when we walk. You step on things. You breathe in and out. You have a body odor. Everything has a body odor and a heat signature around us. So, a cotton-picking dog can you give him show him a footprint that's made 3 days ago, a footprint, and he can trace that footprint. Well, what in the world could possibly be in the dirt that came off of a leather shoe? Right, but they do. So there's a lot of animals out there, and Bigfoot apparently has a lot of capacities that we don't see in other animals. So it's, to me, he may have extremely sensitive hearing. They've got microphones now. You can direct them, and you can hear someone a half a block away talking. Okay, couldn't do that a few years ago, but we do it. So Bigfoot is a lot stronger than we are, maybe he's got a lot better hearing. Maybe he's got a digestive system that can just eat anything. Let's see. Well, there's some things they don't like. Somebody told me the other day something they don't like, but they love peanut butter.
They love peanut butter.
How do they love peanut butter? I don't know.
Peanut butter sandwich. I will say this. You know what I heard? I heard that a guy went up to a Bigfoot and said, I can't be within 100 feet of you because you smell so bad. You turn my stomach. And the Bigfoot, turns to the guy and says, I was just telling my buddies that you humans smell so bad I can smell you 1,000 yards away.
I believe it. People are the worst smelling things in the world. And the Bigfoot deal, I don't know, a skunk, how does he do it? He can fill the air with this scent. It's just a little tiny thing, a little tiny gland, and yet you drive by several hours later, and the scent's still in the air. So as a little bitty tiny creature, we know how he does it. I don't know how Bigfoot does it, but they do put off a terrible odor, according to people who have been around them. Is it directed? Is it something they can, project from their bodies? I don't know, but that is a constant thing that they smell bad. I don't know. I know one lady, not to contradict what you're saying, and I can't say that I can't prove or disprove what she said, but she says she's been close enough to one and they didn't stink, and that she was healed by it. Okay. Again, I have to say I don't think I believe that, but I'll hear your story. Let's check it out. Is there anything to that? And what would that mean if she did? I don't know. We do know that, speaking of smells and what they can do to a person's mind, there was a good article here several years ago about writers and the ambiance they wanted in the room when they wrote. One guy liked decaying apples in his drawer. He liked that smell, okay? And somehow it was conducive to him writing his novels, and he was a successful writer. Well, that sounds crazy, right? Why do women put on perfume? Why do they wear certain colors of dresses? Right? Because there's something to it. It's maybe more than we think. Maybe it's more than just a pink dress with a black belt, right? Maybe there's something more to it. So maybe there's something more to Bigfoot we just don't understand. And can they heal? I'm not going to say they can. It'd be great if they could. I don't know. Maybe they just made the lady feel better. Like smelling flowers makes you feel better on a spring day.
Well, I can say this, Joe. My encounter with my friend back in the Canadian Rockies, I can tell you it was the most horrible smell I've ever smelled in my life. It was so pungent that actually it was burning my nose. And so I started breathing out of my mouth because I couldn't stand the smell. That's how pungent it was. It burned my throat. That's how strong it was. It was horrid. I have never smelt anything like that. I have smelt dead people. Being in the military, I have smelled everything you could ever smell. I have never smelt something that was that pungent in my life. So maybe they have a gland like a skunk does. I can honestly tell you, years ago, one of my kids said, "Hey, go out to the garbage can, Dad. There's a cat stuck in the garbage can." Dumb dad goes out there, lifts the lid all the way off the garbage can, and tips the garbage can over to let the cat out. It was a skunk. And I can tell you, even sitting in the bathtub and draining it and filling it and draining it for hours, it took days to get rid of that smell, let alone the clothes. You had to bury it. That was the end of them.
Yeah. Well, my dad was one of the most unique characters that ever lived. When he was a teenager and a young boy, back then in the 30s, boys just, they would do stuff that boys don't do today. Just do elaborate things they pull on each other. So my dad and one of his best buddies they're about 12 or 13, and they knew there was an old skunk under an old house. So he got some baling wire and made him a kind of a twisty thing. He ran that baling wire up in there and got a hold of that skunk and twisted him up real good and pulled him out, right? Well, my dad stomped his head and killed him, right? I know PETA's probably crying right now. But anyway, he did. And we got this prime skunk there. Now, what are we going to do with it? We can't just leave it here. So my dad said, well, hey, look, there's a bottle right there with a cork in it. So he told his cousin, he said, hey, put that bottle down there around the orifice, and I'll squeeze that skunk stuff out of him, and we'll have it. So his cousin's back there collecting this little stream of skunk scent, and it's about to get full. My dad thought how funny it'd be if he just squeezed it a little bit harder and got it on his finger, right? He did. Because right across his finger, his cousin puts the stopper in the bottle. My dad just died laughing. That's the funniest thing he's ever seen. Now he's got it on him, right on him. So his cousin just reached up and wiped his finger off under my dad's nose. So Paul nearly rubbed his nose raw with mud trying to get the smell of it. So where did it kill him? But every time he'd get into a skunk, he'd come home and Mom would go, you take them clothes off out there, and they'd burn them. This is in the 30s, we didn't burn clothes, but you couldn't wash them. And it'd take a couple months for all the scent to wear off. But anyway, that's how you earn the name Skunk Taylor. But, that stuff is so pungent. It's amazing.
Oh, yeah. I can honestly tell you that Bigfoot I encountered with in the Canadian Rockies, that smell was actually 10 times more pungent than that skunk it sprayed me. I'm telling you. I mean, even with the windows rolled down, me and my friend, we were trying to get the smell out of the car. It took maybe 10 minutes or so with the windows all down, nice and chilly, with snow on the ground next to us. We're driving, trying to get that smell, because it literally, I'm not joking, it's like if you took the hottest pepper that you could ever find and put a spoonful in your mouth. That's what it did to your throat.
Well, speaking of peppers, we're not all not all sensitive to the same things. Some of us have an Irish palate like me, and I can't eat much hot stuff. My nephew James can eat the hottest pepper that was ever invented, and not die. So we were on a dig up in Kansas here a few years ago with Dr. Carl Ball. We were gathered around in the evening there after our digging all day. And Carl has this little thing that if you want to become a member of the team, it's all a joke, but it says you have to eat this jalapeno pepper. And so, of course, everybody wants to. They don't dream how hot the thing is. Well, there was this thin young lady there. She's about 35. And he hands her one. She just bites in, eats the whole thing, and stands there. And I go, boy, you're a better man than me. But anyway, there was this a minister about her age. He took just a little nib off the end, and that guy nearly went berserk. He walked around for an hour trying to deal with it, how much burn it was. So you may be more sensitive to that whole smell than anyone else, but that is a common thing. It is so bad, it's overpowering. They just can't stand it. Same with Mothman. Mothman apparently really smells bad, or puts out a bad smell.
Okay, now talking about Mothman, we need to take a break. This break is going to be about 8 minutes long, because we have our break for the stations and our news. So if you want to get another cup of Jabba and just relax, we'll be back in about 8 minutes with Joe Taylor. We're going to mention and talk about Mothman, and I got some questions for him about Mothman. So stay tuned. We will be back.